now the troops have come and you can hear what it sounds like.
For Mexicans, 1968 was a year of trial and of tribute to decades of prosperity. Better days would follow before the collapse.
Jam Mexico City's Plaza Zocalo in a spectacular climax to nationwide celebrations of 150 years of independence. It is a night of jubilation and fiesta for 35 million Mexicans.
In 1960, Mexicans also celebrated the 50th anniversary of their revolution. And even more. Mexico had enjoyed 20 years of economic growth. A U.S. travelogue reflected this sense of progress.
Mexico City, the capital of the Republic of Mexico, is a modern, bustling metropolis with a population of nearly 6 million. These exciting examples of building design prove that Mexico is making a significant contribution to modern architecture.
Mexico was becoming cosmopolitan in the 1960s. For the rich and famous, it was the place to be seen.
At Acapulco, a lavish dinner party attracts a wide variety of celebrities, including Linda Bird Johnson and her actor friend George Hamilton. Film star John Wayne enjoys the festivities, while Mexican movie actress Dolores Del Rio and her husband are also among the famous guests.
Nos ilumina toda esta codiciada preciosidad que se llama, como ustedes saben, Jane Mansfield.
Mexico showed the world a traditional charm and a happy new face of modern fashion and style.
Sencillez,
Grace, simplicity, and good taste are the mark of these exquisite fashions. They are weapons for women in their age-old battle against men.
Batalla contra los hombres.
Mexican fashions. Made in Mexico. In the 60s, the textile industry, like business in general, was booming. Textile manufacturers imported machinery to spin Mexican cotton into consumer goods. Those were good years for Ricardo Villa.
Well, the textile industry was growing. The inflation rate was only 3%. We were investing in equipment. We were bringing equipment from the United States and from Europe. Profit margins were good, and people felt comfortable. They had trust and confidence in the way the economy was handled. Workers were getting a raise every 2 years of an average of 12%. And everybody was happy.
Magnífica, ¿eh?
Mexico's first television commercials reflected the demands of a growing middle class for consumer products.
Lo máximo. ¿Quieres más? Nada más.
The demand for more products spurred the growth of Mexican business. So did investments from the United States. U.S. brands made in Mexico. The 60s was a period of remarkable growth. Mexico's gross national product doubled during the decade. Many Mexicans in the 1960s enjoyed a prosperity they had never known. In Mexico City, everyone could spend Sundays in Chapultepec Park, one of the most beautiful parks in the world. They could enjoy the fruits of economic growth that made Mexico a model for developing nations. Decades of progress known in the 60s as the Mexican miracle, a prosperity rooted in darker times. World War II.
Stirred to fever pitch, citizens parade before the presidential palace. A public funeral for the first victim of German U-boat warfare that claimed 2 unarmed Mexican ships within a week.
Mexico joined the U.S., declaring war against Germany, and the presidents of the two countries met for the first time in 30 years. They buried the tensions stemming from U.S. intervention in Mexico's revolution and Mexico's expropriation of U.S. oil companies in 1938. Before World War II, Mexico's development had focused on agriculture in the countryside. In the 1940s, the emphasis began to change. The growth that would bring prosperity in the post-war decades came from industry. The war made importing difficult and forced Mexico to manufacture its own consumer products. At war's end, Mexico restricted imports to protect its growing industry. One architect of this strategy was Hugo Margain.
Actually, this movement was a success, and we reached easily 100% production for the needs of the consumption in Mexico. And the result that the increase of the production in Mexico was fantastic.
Hugo Margain believed in industrialization promoted by frugal government borrowing and spending. He was a disciple of the Treasury Secretary who managed the economy for 12 years of the Mexican miracle, Antonio Ortiz Mena.
It's common sense. You have to use for development the resources you have available. If you start using future resources, you're going to have a failure. Someday you're going to pay. You can have some happy years, but after that, a lot of very bad years.
Mexico's prosperity went hand in hand with political stability marked by peaceful presidential succession. In 1940, Lázaro Cárdenas handpicked his party's candidate, and Manuel Ávila Camacho was installed as president. Every 6 years, there was an orderly transfer of presidential power.
In the famous Palace of Fine Arts in the Republic's capital, retiring President Manuel Ávila Camacho relinquishes the symbolic sash of office to his successor, Miguel Alemán, once a Veracruz newsboy, now at 44, Mexico's head man for the next 6 years.
Adolfo Ruiz Cortines takes the oath of office as Mexico's next president in the presence of 2,000 Mexican officials and foreign envoys. He received the traditional Latin embrace from outgoing President Alemán.
El señor licenciado Adolfo López Mateos rindió su protesta como presidente constitucional de los Estados Unidos mexicanos.
They were powerful figures, but the power of the Mexican president rested more in respect for the office of the presidency than in the personality of the president. Mexico had no dictators like Perón in Argentina. No dynasties like the Somozas in Nicaragua. No revolutions like Castro's in Cuba. Mexico's orderly transfer of power every 6 years was unique in Latin America. But Mexico was not a democracy. It was a one-party system that used electoral fraud when necessary to assure that its candidate always won. The ruling party was called the PRI, the Institutional Party of the Revolution. The PRI controlled various political sectors: the middle class, the peasants or campesinos, the workers. Though not democratic, it was responsive to their needs.
We thought we had something unique, and the political system worked. It was fluid, we had mobility, inside mobility, we had stability, and Mexico could grow economically. There was hope of growth and real growth.
The PRI kept control by promoting economic growth. In this way, it maintained the support of organized labor. Most workers belonged to the party's Federation of Unions, the CTM. In the post-war decades, they got their benefits from its leader, Fidel Velázquez.
Hubo más empleo, mejores salarios.
There were more jobs, better wages than what the workers had been able to earn in the countryside. We had better contracts. There was more respect for labor laws, and it was at this time that the labor movement grew at a fast pace.
Con mayor celeridad que antes.
But in 1958, railroad workers went on strike. They settled their wage demands with the government, which owned the railroads. But their independence from the party made the government nervous. So did a communist leader who continued the strike. In the previous 5 years, thousands of labor disputes have been resolved without any significant strikes. When the government suppressed the railroad strike, some began to glimpse failings in the Mexican miracle. Among them was a young novelist, Carlos Fuentes.
It was during the workers' strikes that we saw, well, the miracle isn't such a miracle, and there's something that's gone wrong. People were being sent to jail. People were the object of aggression. They were being hit, and nobody knew anything about it. So we decided to publish a monthly review in which these things would be spoken about openly. It was called El Espectador, and it was done by a group of young university professors and writers, including myself, and we had the privilege of being destroyed by a razzia organized by the police, or someone that went into our printing shop and destroyed one of our issues. And that was more or less the end of our venture into opposition journalism.
Mexico's progress overshadowed these problems. In the 60s, world leaders flocked to Mexico to pay tribute to the Mexican miracle of political stability and economic growth.
Mexico City, which has barely gotten through its reception for French President Charles de Gaulle, welcomes more European rulers. Queen Juliana of the Netherlands and Prince Bernhard are greeted by President Lopez Mateos as they arrive for a 10-day state visit. Prime Minister Diefenbaker makes a 4-day visit to Mexico. He is greeted at the airport by President Adolfo Lopez Mateos, who visited Canada last fall.
President Eisenhower paid a visit. Then President Kennedy. And President Johnson. For many Mexicans, the most important tribute was beamed to the world from Tokyo at the closing ceremonies of the 1964 Olympics. Mexico City was selected to host the 1968 Summer Olympics. It was the first time a developing country had been so honored. Mexico's president, Gustavo Díaz Ordaz, welcomed his duties as host.
Mexico will fulfill with dignity its commitment to unite the youth of the world for the 19th Olympic Games.
But Díaz Ordaz was concerned about Mexico's youth when he addressed the nation the year before the Olympics.